Hello, and welcome to another episode of Turf Without Borders, where we learn how golf course turf is managed around the world. We are going to Scotland today, and we have Dave Edmondson, the head greenkeeper from Prestwick Golf Club, joining us on this episode of Turf Without Borders. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to this opportunity.
So am I, because I love to hear about how turf is managed. And Scotland is the home of golf, and Prestwick Golf Club has some excellent history that I think most people listening to this will know. Can you let us know what is Prestwick really famous for?
Prestwick Golf Club was founded in 1850. We are most famously known for being the birthplace of the Open Championship. The Open was first played at Prestwick in 1851, and we hosted 25 Opens following that first Open.
What did you say opened in 1850?
1851.
1851, and the first Open was held that very same year.
No, it was the first Open was held in 1860.
Oh, 1860. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you for correcting me. Okay, so the course was 9 years old, and that's when the first Open was held.
That's correct. It was originally the first Open Championship was played over 12 holes at Prestwick. We refer to it as the home section of the golf course. So it goes out to say like the back of the third green is the original course. It's been its current layout since the late 1880s. But we have recreated the 12-hole course for the 150th anniversary celebrations of the Open Championship. The Open has changed so much since those days. Back in the first Open, there was only 8 players who played in the Open, and now it's a massive worldwide event. So it started off at Prestwick, the Open Championship, where we had quite a lot of rich members at the time. And the caddies, i.e. Tom Morris, Willie Park and people like that, they were caddies, but they were also very, very good golfers. So that's where the Open started from at Prestwick Golf Club, and it's evolved to what it is today.
And today, are you managing 18 holes?
Yeah, we've got 18 holes. The course was changed in about the 1880s, so the Open has played over the current course. There haven't been many changes to the course down the years in the club's history. Our last major architectural change, was the 11th green in 1925, where James Braid, I think, designed our 11th green. We still use six of the original Open greens on the 18-hole course. It's quite an interesting place to look at how Tom Morris marked out the original 12 holes, and his vision, incredible. I mean, they would just use the landform. The rumor has it that he just dropped feathers out of his top hats to mark the borders of the greens, and that's how he formed the greens that we're still playing now, nearly 175 years later.
Wow, that's like managing a museum piece in a way.
It is indeed. It is indeed.
That's quite a responsibility. So, how many staff do you have to maintain this facility?
We have 12 staff, including myself. So I have a deputy head greenkeeper, 2 senior greenkeepers, and a full-time mechanic, and the guys on the crew.
And any women or all men?
No, we're an all male.
Okay. And is that pretty much year-round 12, or do you have some seasonal help in the summer?
No, we have 12 year-round. once we go from our busy period, my team is busy through the winter period, doing winter projects, renovating bunkers, releveling T-tops, rough management, aeration, all the kind of things that we do normally on a links golf course.
And the you mentioned busy period. It's open year round, I suppose. Can you give me an idea of the total number of rounds per year, and what some of the peak months would see in terms of traffic?
Our peak months would generally be May and September. We have a lot of North American visitors, or visitors from all over the world, coming to play the golf course. Total rounds per year played is in the region of about 20,000, which is a mixture of member play, guest play, visitor play. That is generally the majority of our play is from probably April through to October, and we're relatively quiet in the winter.
Do you tee off on the first hole, or do you do a two tee start at all, or I've been there once, but I don't remember the routing. So is it a out and back links? In which case you would just tee off on one tee, or could you tee off on two tees?
Yeah, I mean, we generally tee off on the first tee. Our ninth green is right near where our maintenance facility is. Our maintenance facility is at the north end of the golf course, and I'm only 350 yards away from the ninth green at Royal Troon. That's how close the two clubs are. So it is. It's an out and in.
Yeah. So pretty much they're teeing off on one. So you've got a lot of golf course that you can work on before the play gets there.
Yeah, but the only time that does the two tee start is if we have matches where they will start off a 15th and play 15, 16, 17, 18. And that's just to facilitate everybody finishing at the same time so they can launch together.
And what time does your staff get started in the morning?
We start at 6 a.m. in the summer. That changes in the winter because of the daylight. Our first tee off time is 8 o'clock in the morning, so we're quite blessed on that front.
And do you have any maintenance closure days or closure times, or it's just a golfing facility, so you have to fit the work in when you can?
We do, yeah. We fit the work in. It's quite interesting, really, at Prestwick because we're following the disturbance theory. So I don't do any aerification on the greens. We just do a little bit of solid tining here and there, a bit of sour rolling, a little bit of slitting through the winter period when it's quiet. So when anybody turns up at Prestwick, we expect them to be playing a highly polished golf course on a daily basis, and we set up that way to facilitate who could be out there that day.
That leads right into the next question, which is grass species. So you're following disturbance theory, which is trying to favor the finer grasses that are customarily used for golf, such as the fine fescues and perhaps a little bit of brown top bentgrass or common bentgrass, or as Americans might call it, colonial bentgrass. And trying to discourage the coarser grasses such as Poa annua. And the course is old, and you said your most recently renovated green was sometime in the 1920s, I think, which is 100 years ago. So I'm very interested in the disturbance theory results, and what are 150-year-old greens or 100-year-old greens? What species grow on those in Scotland?
We've got a mixture of fine fescue and brown top bent. There's a little bit of Yorkshire fog in a few of the greens. There's not a great deal of meadowgrass in the greens, which is I think a testament to how they've been managed for this length of time. When you look on Twitter and you see people talking about poa seed heads, I think crikey, we see maybe 2 weeks max where we see a few seed heads. So botanically, we are pretty good. It's quite interesting because I think we have got better greens botanically, and also I've got my fourth green that's got a little bit of meadowgrass. That's down near the Pow Burn, so the burn does come up in the winter. So there's a bit of meadowgrass in that one. So what we've actually done with our greens are we've created a league table. So we've got like four divisions. I would say the best green botanically is the second green. That's our benchmark green that we want to work towards. And we've got 3 divisions underneath. Fourth green I would probably put in the lowest division. So we've got to do a little bit more work to that. And then we just to try and bring everything up to the same standard. I think the standard is good, but we can always do better, and that's the interesting thing about the site.
For those who don't know meadowgrass, that is the British name. Annual meadowgrass is Poa annua, and Yorkshire fog is Holcus lanatus, which my friends in the Pacific Northwest will also be very familiar with. And that's a very common lawn grass and a nice grass, but you don't really want it on putting greens. So I was wondering, when you try to bring up from the third division and move to the second, or from the second division and move to the first, are you interseeding? Is that one of the main strategies that you would use? Is trying to introduce new seed of the desired species?
Absolutely. So we overseed with fine fescue. When I talk about the league table, we're starting to get a little bit more specific with our overseeding. If certain greens require more seed because they are lower down the table, we'll put a bit more seed into those through the year. But tying in with the disturbance theory, we only use a small dimple seeder, and they're called diner seeders, which go on the front of a greens triple and make thousands of little holes. You then run behind with a top dressing, a roll, and nobody will know that we've been on the surfaces. You might see a bit of seed at the top. So we kind of take that approach with throughout our golf course. So say if we've got fairways that have got a little bit more poorer grasses in there, we will put more seed into those areas. The fairways that are, say, excellent botanically, they're full fescue fairways, we might hold off those. We've got lots of humps and bumps and hollows, as with every classic links golf course. So we don't want to be kind of running slit seeders over some of these undulations, because if we get a dry spring, it's prone to opening up. So everything is starting to get very, very targeted. And we're looking at organic matter as well on our greens, and managing them. Say our greens that are a little bit more productive, 18, 14, a couple of greens out the back section, 6, and we're adding more sand to those. But we have 5 greens that we test on a yearly basis for OM246, and they are we do that on a yearly basis, but every 3 years we will do the whole site, and then that will allow us to form a program if we've got any outliers on the organic matter side of things.
May I ask if you're able to share what the approximate values are at your minimum and maximum greens in terms of the 0 to 2 centimeter layer?
We're about 4.2%, between 4.2 and 4.5. When I started here, they were a little bit higher than that. So our first couple of years, we put out like 200 tons of sand over 1.1 hectares to bring those down, and it was quite interesting looking at this at the organic matter levels as we went through that process. We only use very, very minimal amounts of nitrogen. ridiculously low. I think I've applied 15 kg of nitrogen so far this year. I'll probably be finishing up around about 35, 40 potentially. So I'm not growing a great deal of grass. So as we've kind of got to that level where we're at, where we're comfortable and we've got our firmness, we've started to back off on our sand. So our yearly target this year is only going to be 100 tons of sand, which ties in quite nicely with our disturbance theory. We're not lumping sand all over the place, trying to get 200 tons of sand down onto the surfaces. So we can go little and often. Run over with a rubber drag mat, maybe put the irrigation on a little cycle of irrigation, and we're ready to go again. So we can carry out quite a lot of our maintenance while play is going on.
When you are adding sand, are you using a dune sand that's very similar to what the greens are growing on, or are you bringing in a sand from somewhere else?
We bring in a sand from probably about 10 miles up the road. So it's a washed dune sand that the club have been using for the last probably 14, 15 years. We have got a sand supply on site. We're allowed to take about 400 tons per annum from that. So as there's a bit of marram grass and sometimes debris through it, we've got a screener. We only use that on fairways and for replenishing bunkers if we get any wind blow. So, but it's a very nice resource to have.
What's the number one complaint that you hear from golfers?
I would say same as everywhere, really. I think it's probably green speed. It's quite interesting since we've been doing the GVX. If I kind of get any, I could be running my greens at say 0.60% GVX. Everything is fine and dandy. We put a little bit of ammonium sulfate out there. It spikes quickly up to 1, say for example. I'll be told that the greens have slowed down.
So it's just
we don't use it.
Yeah. So the grass is, if the grass is growing more, then you get conditions that draw more complaints.
Yeah, but it's not nothing major. I mean, we focus on trueness and smoothness. It's quite the clip volume's been quite interesting because I think as we've gone through the program, we've reduced our yearly quantities, which is quite interesting to look at in the spreadsheet. And I think as I go further along and reduce that organic matter, or maintain, the organic matter, I think we're getting less and less, but a little bit of fertilizer out there. And the weather conditions are, because it rains quite a lot on the west coast of Scotland. We get about 900 millimeters per year. We potentially do get comments on green speed, but it's a links golf course, and we have traffic over the surfaces, so we do have to put a little bit of fertilizer out from time to time. Say for example, if I put some fertilizer out today and the greens got a little bit productive, we never go over like 12 milliliters per meter square. Looking at the clip volume, I know that in 4 or 5 will down, and we'll be playing a totally different golf course again. So it's been really good getting all this information. It's just really interesting.
Well, I'm glad that you are making use of it, and this is something, whether it is a classic and historic course like Prestwick, trying to use the disturbance theory and grow fine fescue, or whether it's a modern golf course trying to use a new type of seashore paspalum or Ulterdorf Bermuda grass, or one of the new generation of creeping bent grasses on a brand new golf course. This paying attention to how much grass you're growing just really it's useful, and it's so good for me. Again, sorry, we're diverging a little bit from the usual format of Turf Without Borders, but I will just make a case for doing this because it works. And it's not just me sitting here thinking about it and saying, okay, here's some theory that will work. It's like on the ground, it really works. And then your organic matter is under control and the green speed is predictable. And it's no wonder if you've put 15 kilograms of nitrogen so far this year, it's no wonder that you don't have a big seed head problem with the little bit of meadowgrass that you'd have, because meadowgrass is not going to be very vigorous, not very productive if it gets 15 kilograms of nitrogen and that much rainfall. It's going to be starving, and if it's starving, it's not going to be productive. So good. All right. Let's see. You talked about nitrogen rate for greens. How about fairways? Do they get some nitrogen?
They get absolutely nothing. Nothing, nothing at all, and I don't think they've ever had much. All the fairways will get is probably 3 or 4 applications of surfactants, generally in the springtime, just in case we do run into any dry weather. We do that on a monthly basis. They get a selective herbicide application for any broadleaf weeds, daisies and things like that. But it's quite interesting, really. I mean, there are a few fairways that perform really, really well. They can dry down. They recover really, really well as well. It's quite interesting. They've not been tinkered around with. There's not too much contamination in there. So we have a few on some of the undulations. We have been adding some hard fescue and some sheep fescue to some of those more areas that are prone to a little bit of drought. We just run the Procore over with some tines and go down to 10 mil. So we target our overseeding rather than hitting everything with a blanket approach. So,
what type of mowing heights do you use across the property?
Okay, so greens, we are currently at 4.5 millimeters. We've actually just gone down today to 4 millimeters. We've got a match on this weekend. So we've taken the height down there. Our aprons are mowed at 10 millimeters. Our fairways, 11 millimeters. Our tees, 10 millimeters. And our semi-roughs are about 1 inch. So there's not much of a difference between the cutting heights, apart from on the greens, which is just a little bit lower.
You said no aerification, and by aerification you mean core hollow tine aerification or pulling a core. But you certainly do some solid tine cultivation, and you mentioned the serral rolling, which is a type of slicing, I understand, or spiking. Can you describe to me what you do and don't do for anything that decompacts the soil, shall we say, or spikes into the soil?
Okay, so our aeration program would consist of a vertidrain with a 12 mil tine. That's done generally end of January. Probably leave that for about 6 weeks and do some small tines with the Procore. So 8-10 mil tines, more so towards the 8 mil. So it's not really disrupting too much. That's carried out maybe 3-4 times through the summer in conjunction with the sarral rolling, which we use a little bit more regularly. That just helps with infiltration in case we run into any dry weather. Through the autumn, winter, we'll do a slit tine on the greens. We do that quite regularly. So we'll go down to a bit of depth, and we run that up until about Christmas. And then after Christmas, we stop, and then it's back onto the cycle of vertidraining, solid tining, bit of sarral rolling here and there. The only plugs that we pull of we do get a little bit of type 1 fairy ring on maybe 3 or 4 greens. So the last couple of years we've been tining those with like a 13 mil tine quite closely, putting a penetrant wetting agent on those, overseeding those, and so far so good. They can get a little bit fiery, some of these old fairy rings, and visually they don't look great. So yeah, this year we seem to be making great progress, and I'm really happy with that.
Are you doing just the ring area, or you're doing those entire affected greens?
No, we just do the ring area and we hang over, so half a pro core on either side of it as well.
And do the fairways get any type of decompaction?
Yeah, we run a versi drain every 3 years over the entire property. Um, but we also target lower areas of the fairway. Say like our 15th fairway is prone to holding a little bit of water because it's low lying. So we'll do a bit of decompaction work on some of the lower parts of the fairways, but leaving the higher parts of the fairways. So
And you've said that the amount of sand that you put varies based on how you need to be managing the organic matter. So when you were trying to reduce it, you said 200 tons of sand per 1.1 hectares of green area, if I got that right. In more
correct.
recent years, if I understand, you're putting about 100 tons. And is that kind of spread out through the year, or are you dumping it on in the winter or dumping it on in the summer? How how are you putting the sand in? Could you elaborate on that just a little bit?
So we do it with the spinners. We generally put about 6 tons of sand on. That's now it's between 6 and 10 tons of sand each application. We generally do that on a monthly basis, right throughout the year.
Okay, so 6 times, yeah, 10 times 12 would be 120. 6 times 12 would be 72. So yeah, that gets us to from 72 up to 120 tons. So that's in the ballpark. You just do it about once a month and vary the rate.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. The greens have irrigation, I understand. I'm not sure if the fairways do, so please tell me, and please tell me the irrigation water source, where you get the water from.
Okay. So our irrigation water source is we take water from the pow burn, which runs behind the second green. It is tidal up until the second green, but we've got fresh water above that. So we pump from there, from the freshwater area. It goes up to our holding tank and then back out onto the golf course. Um, we have got full irrigation system. The system is about 20 years old. Um, we're using the latest software, which has been beneficial in targeting water. Um, we use the Pogo regularly through the summer, so that's given us some really good information, and with that information, we can schedule our watering if we need it. But I haven't used the irrigation system for the last 5 weeks because it's rained so much.
I haven't followed the weather in on the west coast of Scotland so much, but I heard it was dry in southwestern England. Has it? So you've been. It's been raining where you are, and it's dry in another part of the island. Is that right?
Yeah, well, we started off we had a very dry winter. Um, we have had so far to date. I'm just looking at my notes. I've had 273 millimeters of rainfall. Our average is around about 900 for the year. We had a dry January, February, March, and April, and we were getting told to be from the Environment Agency to conserve water because they were worried about the river levels being low in the groundwater levels. And then we've had through the months of May and June and the start of July, it's we've had quite a bit of rainfall. So most of that rainfall has come in the last 3 months. So yeah, it was kind of early we were irrigating, but now we're with the wetting agents and things like that. I've not used the system for a while, but we're due some heat at the weekend. We're supposed to be getting up to 25 degrees Celsius, so I may have to turn it on again.
Yeah, I'm in Bangkok, and it might get down to 27 or something tonight. So, yeah, it's funny how the temperatures vary. What is the
Absolutely.
hottest temperature that you've experienced there since you've been at Prestwick?
I'd probably say about 20, 26, 27, something like that. But that was pretty short lived. I mean, I love the golf course when it goes brown and bouncy and fiery, but we always tend to get rainfall on this west coast.
Well, yeah, that 25 coming up should dry things down a little bit if it comes with some sunshine. And
Absolutely.
if the grass is not used to it, 25 for grass that's not used to that is just like 40. So I'm sure it will be well prepared, though. What is the brand of irrigation system and the software that you're using to put the control out? And then what brand of maintenance equipment for mowing and so on do you primarily use?
Okay, so we've got a rainbow irrigation system. The software that we've got now is the Cirrus Pro, which has been excellent. Um, I've got I've got it's pretty dialed in, and I can be specific with my watering. If I need to water with individual heads, I will do that on drier parts of fairways and things like that. Our machinery is a mixture of Toro and John Deere. So when we purchase, we look for best equipment for our site.
What are the three main pests that you are worried about and try to control?
Okay, well, rabbits on links golf courses are an ongoing issue. Um, so that would probably, although I think if you let them get away from you, they can cause a lot of digging and things like that, which is not great for the surfaces. Second pest, I would say, is probably we're in a leather jacket hotspot here. So we will use we've only got one insecticide that we're allowed to use now in the United Kingdom. So we generally put that down around about October, early November, and that sees us through. We get if we don't treat our playing areas, we can be prone sometimes to a bit of picking from crows and things like that. Other pests, no, I don't think there's anything disease wise. I think because we have a little bit of brown top in the greens, and we get the odd little spot of take-all patch here and there through the summer, and obviously I'm going one more here, but yeah, the type 1 fairy rings that we're trying to control constantly.
Okay. For those like myself who are not terribly familiar with the exact problems that rabbits cause, they do chew the grass. They'll mow the grass a little bit, but you mentioned digging. So they'll dig like gophers or something at the edge of a green, or even into a green, or in bunkers. Could you
Yeah,
describe some of those problems?
yeah, we get they hit spots of fairways sometimes. Sometimes if the turf's a little bit thinner, and they dig, and they're trying to burrow, but they just leave a bit of the sand. The sand comes up to the top, and you just have small holes. And what we do is we will go around just with a turf cutter or a turf doctor, and just plug those areas out. and obviously you've got to control them. So there is a bit of shooting goes on from time to time at certain seasons of the year.
At shooting it at nighttime generally?
Yeah, it's nighttime when there's nobody about.
Do you consider this job to be a trade, or do you consider this to be a profession?
Definitely a profession. I think it's a fantastic industry. It has given me many opportunities to meet lots of different people from different walks of life, different nationalities, understand different cultures, understand different team dynamics. I think as a job itself, I think a course manager has got to be a master, really, of lots of different things, whether that be the agronomic side of things, whether that be irrigation management, whether that be machinery maintenance, machinery purchasing, selling ideas to club committees. I think it's fantastic, and I think that there's guys out there who are coming into our industry. I think, as they say in England, the world is their oyster, because I think once you've done your qualifications, you can continually develop yourself. There's golf courses all over the world, different turf types and different environments. So, it's definitely a profession.
Thank you. I was looking through my question list, and I forgot to ask you who you report to. If you report to a committee or a club president or a general manager, how does that work?
I report to the club secretary, and we have a greens committee that meets probably 5-6 times per year, where we discuss ideas for improvements, anything that comes up with the golf course. So yeah, that's our structure.
Do you have a hobby or some interesting fact about yourself that we should know before we close out this episode?
I love to travel. So any time off, I like going to different places and meeting different people. Hobby, gosh, I'm quite boring, really. I seem to be just focused on turf grass management. Hobby, I'm a soccer supporter, and my dad introduced us to our local team, which was Preston North End in England, who were a second division team, and we went to all these weird and wonderful places following our football team, but we've not been too successful down the years. But it's my team, and that's my passion. So once football season starts, I'll try and get down to Preston as much as possible and watch my team and watch them on the television and things.
Very good. Thank you, Dave. I really enjoyed talking with you and hearing all of those facts about turf management and a bit of the history of Prestwick Golf Club. So thanks so much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening and for watching. I am so glad that there's other people out there in the world who, like Dave and myself, are also interested in how turf is managed. And I will be back again soon with some more turfgrass information. For now, I'll sign off. From Bangkok, Thailand, I'm Michael Woods. Bye-bye.